welcome to Google.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So the movie was released 27 years ago.
Yes.
But I just spent the entire last week quoting this all through work with my colleagues and everything. Like, I'm literally quoting it, and then 20 feet away, someone else starts quoting it.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was a huge movie and just got bigger over the years. So this book is amazing, especially for me as a fan, because reading it, you learn more about the characters, the situations, even untold stories, and just fall in love with the movie all over again, but in greater detail.
Thank you.
So it's amazing, but tell us first off kind of what inspired you to write about your experience on The Princess Bride?
Well, myself and the rest of the cast always get asked, was it as much fun to make as it looked? And I always tell people it was more fun. So I wanted to write a love letter to the film, to the filmmakers, because it was such a joyous journey for me. And so I thought I better write it before my memory starts to fail me, So it's a love letter. Yeah.
Awesome. And it all started, in your book you say it all started with a note that read, important.
That's right.
Right? So
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, I was filming a little independent film in Berlin at the time. It was a Finnish-German-British co-production, which would tell you how much money we needed to make the film. And it was about the time of Chernobyl, which was a terrible nuclear disaster that happened in Russia in 1986. And I'll never forget, we were filming outside of Helsinki. We had a German production manager, and he called a crew meeting, and he said, I have some good news and some bad news. And so we were all listening very intently, and he goes, there's been a bit of an accident. We were thinking, what, the catering truck broke down or something? And he said, there's been a bit of a spill, but the good news is it's 800 miles away, and the wind is blowing in the other direction. And the bad news is that we've heard from the farmers that some of the cows may be affected, so you might not want to put milk in your coffee for the next couple of weeks. So, today the production probably would have been shut down for safety purposes, but back then, luckily no one was injured or affected by it, but we continued shooting, and I went back to Berlin, and I got a call from my agent, and the note did say important. So I called her back, and she said, Rob Reiner and his producing partner, Andy Scheinman, would like to fly to Berlin to meet with you to talk to you about The Princess Bride. Now, I had read the book when I was 13, and I loved it. So I knew, that a lot of people had tried to make the film, and so I was very excited. I knew Rob Reiner. I knew him from All in the Family, and of course, a little film that he did called This Is Spinal Tap. Yeah. And so I didn't know what I was more excited about, the idea of Meathead or Marty DeBurgi showing up. So I was very excited, and they came to my hotel suite, and they were just fantastic. I was so overjoyed to meet them. And I ended up doing a Fat Albert impersonation. I don't know how that came up. I was so nervous. I ended up trying to I thought, I'll make the director laugh. I'll try and impress him how much I know about American pop culture. And for some reason, I blurted out a Fat Albert impression, which is rotten. You don't want to hear it. It's dreadful.
I was going to say you don't want to do it again.
You really want to hear it?
I kind of do.
This won't play on YouTube. I just went,
hey, hey, hey.
like that. And that did get a laugh out of Rob. I thought, great, I'm in good shape. That's a good start.
And you were pretty young at the time, right?
I was 23.
Yeah.
And then he pulled out a script out of his bag, and he said, I just want to hear you say a few lines. So I thought, oh boy, here we go. And I read the scene where Wesley explains to Buttercup in the Fire Swamp how he became the Dread Pirate Roberts. And I only got through a couple of lines, and Rob held up his hand. He goes, that's enough. I thought, that's it, it's done. It was a nice meeting while it lasted. So much for the Fat Albert impersonation. And And he said, you know, we're meeting a couple of other actors, and, you know, we'll see, and we'll let you know. You know, and usually as an actor, when you hear that, you're thinking, well, you know, that's it, right? But fortunately for me, about 4 days later, my agent called back and she said, are you sitting down? I went, what? She goes, yeah. I went, no way. And she said, yeah, they like you for the part. And I couldn't believe it. So I said to her, you can go ahead and forge my signature on the contract, because you better do it quickly before they change their mind. You know, so yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, in this movie, and with all your movies, you're known for your amount of preparation. Like, you spend a lot trying to get ready for these movies, right? And so I just watched the movie again, and I noticed that this is actually a pretty physically demanding movie. The sword fighting scene alone is really impressive.
Thank you.
And you refer to yourself in the book as not much of an athlete, though. That's not my words. That's what you said.
Yes, those are my words.
And so, I mean, tell us about the preparation for this movie.
Well, yeah, I love preparing for roles. I do. I really do. I think that's half the fun, actually. For me, it's like a continued education, you know. I've had a very blessed career, really. A lot of it, all of it, really, due to this film. And so, you know, I get to study NASCAR driving when, you know, or when I'm playing an astronaut, I get to study how a command module works, or LEM, or something like that. And for me, it's so exciting, the preparation, because I get to learn about things that I never would normally have the chance to learn about. Of course, these are the days before Google, folks. You know, this was the days when I had to go to the library to look stuff up early in my career. But now, thanks to your company, it's made the work of actors a lot easier, because you have so much information at your fingertips nowadays. And so that's wonderful. Yes, for the sword fighting, I am not much of an athlete. I wasn't growing up. And I had very little, in fact, little or no fencing training before the movie started. I'd gone to acting school, and they teach you sort of very basic stuff, but I didn't remember any of it. And so one of the things Rob Reiner said to Mandy and myself and Chris Guest at the beginning of the movie, he said, I don't want stunt guys or stand-ins or doubles for the sword fighting scene. I want you guys. You know, it's a bit daunting, because it's just described as the greatest sword fight in modern times. You know, it's like, okay. And Mandy was like, yeah, sure, great, you know. So I was standing next to him and going, yeah, fine, sure, that sounds great. But fortunately for us, he hired two of the greatest sword masters available in England at the time. One of them was Bob Anderson, who was an Olympic fencer for Great Britain in the 1950s. And the other was Peter Diamond. And they had both incredible resumes, these guys. They'd worked with Errol Flynn and with Burt Lancaster. And in fact, Bob Anderson did all the lightsaber sequences for the Star Wars movie. And Peter Diamond helped choreograph them with him. And also, Peter was the Tusken Raider on Tatooine, for you Wikipedias out there. Sorry to mention the other company. But anyway, so we got the very best of the best, and they were amazing, these guys. And I'll never forget, rather, the first meeting we had with Bob Anderson. He said, you know, guys, I won't lie to you. You know, we don't think we have enough time to make you proficient right-handed. Forget left-handed. So we've asked the producers to move the sword fight sequence to the very end of the film. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So they worked as hard. We worked 8 hours a day before we started shooting. And then once we started shooting, these guys were off camera the whole time. So when Rob yelled cut, they would just grab us, Mandy and I, or Chris, and go and work on the sequence. And we had to learn each other's parts as well. Wow. Because they said, you know, we don't want any accents on the film, and the best way to avoid that is if you guys learn each other's parts as well. So we had double the workload. So, you know, while the rest of the cast was sitting around having a good time and hanging out on the set, Mandy, myself, and Chris were out there practicing all day. So it was definitely rigorous, but we got into it, and it was fun.
Did you do the scene where you rolled down the mountain?
No, that was a stunt double.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Yes. Yes.
It could have been tough. So one character, when we're talking about the movie characters, that really also captured everyone's hearts was Andre the Giant.
Yes, Andre.
Tell us about the first time you met him and your first scene with him in the film.
Okay. Well, Andre was really a beautiful guy, and he always had a smile on his face. He really was a gentle giant. He would give you the shirt off his back. It would be enough for 5 people. But he would give it to you willingly, and he was just adorable. He was just a sweet man. And my first day shooting with him was quite eventful. I had to shoot the scene where we're on the parapet of Florin Castle after Miracle Max's cabin, and I'm mostly dead. And I come to, and I think Fezzik has a line where he goes something to the effect of, and I'm sure someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but something to the effect of, I wonder how long it'll take before the miracle takes effect. And Montoya says, your guess is as good as mine. And then I come to and I say, I'll fight you both together, I'll beat you both apart, something like that. And Andre's line was, I guess not very long, like that, right? Well, he didn't get to the word long before he emitted one of the most ginormous farts any of us had ever experienced. And I got to tell you, we've all experienced giant farts in our lives. I'm sure we've all pointed the finger. But this was a giant's fart. The sonic resonance of which was just truly magnificent. I can't even tell you. And we all grabbed the set. I mean, a lot of us thought it was like an earthquake going on, And I looked over at Andre, and he had, besides, I told you already had this wonderful smile. Now he had a smile of blessed relief. It was just like that. And for some reason, he had steam coming out of the top of his head. And it was such a weird combination between this fart that was going, it lasted about 15 seconds. It's a long time. The fart, the steam, the whole thing. I just couldn't look at him. I was just, I looked over at the sound man, and he had taken off his headset. It was like that. And what's so funny in England is that when someone passes gas, they're all so polite. They're all sort of looking away, like that. It's not like in America where it's like, dude, is that you? And you could hear a pin drop after this Titanic fart ended. And Rob was the first one to break the silence. He said, hey, Andre, you okay? And I'll never forget, Andre didn't miss a beat. He goes, I am now, boss. And it just brought the house down. I mean, it was just incredible. Yeah, first day with Andre. Yeah.
That's amazing. He called everyone boss, right?
Everyone boss, which is hilarious for a guy who's 7'5", But he was just a sweetheart. He really, really was. I miss him to this day, yeah.
And you talk about also that, no accidents. You prepared very hard for no accidents to happen, but some did happen on set.
Yes.
And one in particular was egged on by Mr. Andre the Giant.
Yes. Well, Andre couldn't get around very easily while we were on location. We were filming in an area called the Peak District, which was very well named. I'm sure you can Google it if you don't know it. And it's very beautiful. And Rob wanted to shoot on the top of a lot of these hills so he could get the full effect of the vista, yeah? And Andre couldn't fit in any car, let alone the van that took the cast and crew up to the set. So the production manager came up to him and said, so Andre, how do you get around at home on your farm? And Andre said, I drive an ATV, boss. Now, finding an ATV, an all-terrain vehicle in England in 1986 was definitely a challenge, I think, for the production. But I think we found the only one. And again, you can Google it. There's a picture of him on it. It's wonderful. It's a 3-wheeler, little red thing. It looks like a tricycle under it. It's marvelous. And you've never seen a giant move so fast. I mean, he was zooming around this thing. He loved it. And he would zoom up to me on it. He would come up and go, hey, boss, you like my toy? I go, Andre, it's very nice. It looks like a lot of fun. It is fun, You want to try it? I go, no, Andre, I don't think so. You fly off again. Second day. Hey, boss,
You like my toy?
Yes, Andre, I've told you, it's lovely, it's wonderful.
You want to try it?
No, thank you, that's marvelous. I enjoy watching you on it. And this went on for a few days. On the fourth day, he rode up to me and he goes,
Boss, this toy is so much fun. You should try it.
I go, Andre really goes,
You know you want to.
So finally, it was a point where my hubris exceeded my aptitude. I went, okay, fine, Andre, sure. And his bodyguard, like he needed a bodyguard. This guy had the easiest job on the set. His bodyguard came up to me and goes, it's very easy, Governor. Yeah, it's just like a motorbike. Clutch right here, brakes there, on-off switch, Bob's your uncle.
You do a great English accent.
Best, thank you. Thank you for that. And it was the best training I've ever had for an all-terrain vehicle. And I got on this thing, and I put it into gear, and I lurched forward. And I didn't get more than 2 feet, and I went over a rock. And I caught my left big toe between the clutch pedal and the rock, and it just snapped like that. And I went, oh, great, great, great. I should not have gotten on this thing. Why? Why? You know, I was terrified at this point because I'm sweating, and I've got to shoot the scene where I roll down the hill. Not me, but that scene with thank goodness, not rolling down myself. But the scene with Buttercup on the top where I confront her about marrying Humperdinck. And the crew come running up, and I'll never forget a set nurse came over. She was so sweet. She goes, what happened? I said, well, I know, I was trying to act like I was the Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm like, no, it's nothing, it's just a scratch. It's nothing. Just a flesh wound, it's nothing. And she touched my boot, and she goes, does that hurt? I went, no, not much. No, it's fine. She goes, we'll need to take the boot off. I went, sure, go ahead. And it was agony taking this thing off, right? And there was my big toe all swollen and pointing in the wrong direction and everything. And she goes, I think it's broken. And I said, no, it's not. It's just probably sprained or something. She goes, no, it's broken. So now I'm really nervous. I'm thinking, what can I do? I go, is there anything you can do to help me? She goes, well, usually when you break something, you go to the hospital. I go, no, we don't have time for that. I got to shoot the scene. We got to, you know. Is there anything you can do for me? And she said, well, I suppose I could make a makeshift splint. I said, great, do that. And I think she grabbed a couple of twigs or something and, you know, made a makeshift splint right there. And I was terrified of telling Rob because I thought, he'll probably send me home. You know, he'll probably replace me because I haven't shot the sword fight scene yet. And so I was like a twit. I was telling everyone, don't tell Rob, I'll explain to him, and don't worry, I can make it through it. And that's so crazy because on a film set, everyone's got a walkie-talkie, you know. And so I get in the van to go up to the set, and it was the longest, slowest ride I've ever taken in my life. I think I overheard the set nurse tell the AD in the back of the van, I think he fell on his head as well. I get to the set, and I hop out, and then put all my weight on that foot and walk up to Rob like nothing's happened, right? And I'll never forget, Rob was there, and he was scratching his beard, and he goes, hey, Cary, how you doing? I go, I'm fine, Rob. How are you? And he goes, I'm good. How you doing? And I just broke down. I said, Rob, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I was scared you'd let me go. And then he goes, I was fooling around on Andre's ATV, and he goes, I know. Somebody came over the walkie-talkie and said, you're going to see Cary can't walk too good. I said, I'm so sorry, Rob, really. He goes, don't worry about it. I'm not going to send you home. We'll work around it if we have to. And he was such a mensch about it, and he was so sweet. And, luckily the sword fight wasn't until almost a month away. So I had, a bit of time for it to heal. It's a bit tender for some of the scenes. There's no question if you look at the film again, you'll see me. I have a bit of a light step in some of the sequences. Yeah, we worked around it. And Peter Diamond, who was training me, said, well, what we're going to do, obviously, you don't get a break. We're going to work on your arm movements and focus less on your footwork. So, and in fact, it helped me become a better left-handed sword fighter in a strange way, because I was forced to really focus on that. So it was a strange blessing in disguise, although I wouldn't recommend it if you're training for fencing. But yeah.
That's amazing. You mentioned the scene with Buttercup.
Yeah.
Robin Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking, she was the last person casted for the film, is that right?
I know, which is incredible when you think about it. I think we were about 2 weeks before starting the shoot, and we still didn't have our Buttercup. And I think it was Bill Goldman who met with her in New York, and she read for him, and he called Rob in London and said, get her right now. She's it. We're never going to find a better Buttercup than her. And of course, he was right. She's brilliant, and we were lucky to get her, because she was on a soap opera called Santa Barbara, and we had to negotiate with them to let her out of a contract. And she was brilliant in the part. I mean, she's amazing. You can't think of anyone else playing Buttercup now.
Well, tell us about your first scene with her, first time meeting her.
First time meeting her, I was walking around Shepperton Studios where we shot the film with Rob. He was showing me the sets. And we were walking back to the production office. And I said to Rob, so have we found Buttercup yet? We're getting pretty close, And he said, oh, man, have we found the Buttercup? She's perfect. It's this girl, her name's Robin Wright. You ever heard of her? I go, no. He goes, well, she does a daytime soap opera, but don't let that fool you. She's amazing. And boy, you're going to be so happy. She's the Buttercup. And right as he said that, Robin walked up the steps and he goes, Cary, there's Robin Wright. She's Buttercup, the girl you're going to fall in love with. And I went, and Robin was so funny. She's like, oh, Rob, please, like that, And he nudged me. He goes, What'd I tell you, Like that. He was so funny. And she's so funny, Robin. She has a wonderful sense of humor. And she has a British stepfather, so she had a perfect English accent, too. And she had the hardest role, actually, really, because she had to play, the straight man or the straight woman in the whole story. As Buttercup, she's the victim in the story. She gets kidnapped and she has to marry Humperdinck and she loses her love. And she played it note perfect. I mean, she was just fantastic. And of course, now everyone knows how fantastic she is. I mean, I'm sure you guys have watched House of Cards, and she's incredible. We were lucky to get her. Yeah.
Well, so now you say that, in your book, you say that most of the cast still gets a lot of people asking them, coming up in public and saying, do this line, or say this, right, or do something funny, right? So tell me about your most awkward or funniest thing someone's ever done. Like we have a we have a costume going on right here. Wow. Dread Pryor Roberts going on.
Awesome.
But I'm sure this isn't the most.
That's fantastic. You're a very brave man, sir. Is it warm in that? A bit, right? Yeah, I've met some incredible fans over the years. I've met whole families who've some have named their kids after the characters, and people who've gotten married, of course, had the whole ceremony and serving peanuts and shown me their photographs of their wedding, and incredible. But I think the strangest and funniest fan I ever met was a young lady who came up to me, and she lifted her hair. And she turned around and showed me the back of her neck, and she had "As You Wish" tattooed and beautiful calligraphy, very nice. And I said, "Oh, that's nice." And she goes, "It'd be even nicer if you signed it." And she handed me a Sharpie. And I said, "You want me to sign your neck?" And she goes, "Yeah." I go, "What are you going to do with that?" She goes, "I'm going to have it tattooed." And I went, "Well, I don't know about that." I don't want to get a letter from your dad, And her mom was standing right there, and she goes, no, do it. somewhere in the world there's a young lady walking around with my name tattooed on the back of her neck. God bless her. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so in the book as well,
Yeah.
it contains a lot of extra side notes, right? And this is really an amazing insight because you got the whole cast on board with this.
I know.
So,
I'm very blessed, really. I can't take full credit for this book. Not only did I co-write it with Joe Layton, but the whole cast and Rob, Norman Lear, Bill Goldman, they all jumped on board to be a part of it. So it's I'm very blessed. Very blessed.
Tell me, like, what is the most amazing thing you found out from talking with the cast, directors, writers? Like, what are some insights that you found really that you didn't even know yet?
Well, I didn't know at the time that why Wally Shawn was so nervous when I was shooting with him, because I remember shooting, I only had one scene with the guy. I have the Battle of Wits scene, right? And I had a very easy day that day, because all I did was sit there and go, like that, and I think I say, like, then we're at an impasse or whatever.
Did you bring your hurricane pattern?
I did not. Okay. No, well, I'm sure you have some, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of those glasses.
Oh, good. Very good. Yeah, so, but he had reams of dialogue, this guy. His first day shooting, and he had all this dialogue to do. And it's very hard dialogue. It's great dialogue, stuff like, Socrates, Aristotle, morons. Great stuff, great stuff. But he was sweating, and I thought, that's so strange. Here's Wallace Shawn, arguably the smartest guy in the room, wherever he is, Fulbright scholar, lectures at Oxford and Cambridge. Why is he sweating over this little thing, I knew him from My Dinner with Andre. I don't know if you've seen that film. Wonderful. And I never understood it, but I just thought, okay, it's not particularly hot that day, but he was sweating. I thought, well, that certainly made me feel like more at ease. I'm thinking, if Wally's sweating, I've got it easy, And I found out later when I wrote the book that he said his agent had told him that he wasn't the first choice for Vincini. That in fact the producers wanted Danny DeVito instead of him. So Wally said he was haunted by the ghost of Danny DeVito through the entire shoot. He said, anytime he did a scene, he kept thinking how Danny DeVito would do it, which is crazy because it's inconceivable, right? That anyone else could play that role, right? And I think he even said to Rob, he goes, why'd you cast me in this film? I'm not even Sicilian. I'm a Jew from New York, And Rob said, but I love the way you're doing it. You're perfect. But he was convinced he was going to be sent. He was convinced he was going to be sent home and replaced by Danny, which is so crazy. But anyway, needless to say, I don't think he's with that agent anymore. But he was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So when the film released initially, you write that everyone kind of went back to their lives pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of normal routine.
Right.
Tell us about why the movie took off, because it wasn't very initial, right?
Right.
You kind of have a process.
Well, interestingly enough, John, when the film came out, it wasn't as big of a box office success as we had hoped. And that was partly due to the fact that the marketing department had their work cut out for them. They didn't know how to sell the picture. Was it a comedy? Was it a fairy tale? Was it a kids movie? Was it an adult movie? Was it an action film? And so they went with this one sheet. It's a beautiful one sheet, It's sort of a Maxfield Parrish type thing with a picture of Peter Falk reading to Fred Savage. And so that kind of made people think it was a kids movie. And we opened the same week as a little film called Fatal Attraction, which just swept the box office. So we were a little saddened by that. With the film, it did modestly well, but it kind of went away. So, we all, as you said, we all try to get on with our lives and put it behind us. And it wasn't until about 10 years later that, the VHS market started taking off. And that's when folks started renting it and then buying it and then giving it as gifts to their family and friends. And I still meet people who still have their VHS copy, you know, that they want me to sign. It's incredible. And I'll never forget, I was in Manhattan. I was in a restaurant ordering a hamburger or something, and the waitress said, "How do you want that cooked?" And I said, "Medium rare." And she goes, "As you wish." I said, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "You know." Like that, right? And she winked at me and walked away, and I thought, that's so bizarre. I've never had anyone say those 3 words to me before. And so this film that had been mostly dead for almost a decade suddenly came back to life. It was extraordinary. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. I call it the gift that keeps on giving, you know, because now it's bigger than we'd ever hoped it would be, you know. Yeah.
Well, it's timeless. I mean, I'm definitely going to be showing this to my kids. My wife is actually from Mexico. She just saw it for the first time.
No
She's
way.
like, "This is amazing."
Oh, great.
And I mean, it's just like, it's amazing, the film. And I mean, right now what we're going to do is actually take some questions from the crowd.
Great.
Now, these have been submitted from Googlers across our various offices. I wanted to kick it off with one from Miriam to start. She says, though we all know and love you dearly as Wesley, you've portrayed many different types of characters throughout your career. Which has been your favorite? P.S. Love you in The Bard's Tale.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Well, this is definitely my most cherished role, and that's really why I wrote the book, because it gave me the career I have today and the wonderful life I have, and it was such a joyous journey that I went on, and that's why I wanted to write the book. So this was definitely the most fun I ever had. And there's been other movies that I've done that have been fun, but nothing quite like this one, really. You know, yeah.
And Vincent also wanted to talk about one of your other iconic roles. Can you please tell us more about your experiences as Robin Hood versus Wesley?
Okay.
What could Robin Hood learn from Wesley?
Okay. Well, it was actually thanks to Princess Bride that I got cast as Robin Hood, because Mel Brooks had seen it, and obviously Mel and Carl are great friends, and he, you know, Rob grew up around Mel, and I'll never forget, I got a call at home from Mel Brooks, and I picked up the phone, and he goes, "Hello, it's Mel Brooks." I went, "Yeah, right." I thought someone was playing a trick on me, and I hung up on him. And the phone rang again. I picked it up, and he goes, "Don't hang up, don't hang up. It's really me." So it was amazing, because I grew up with Mel Brooks, like a lot of people. I'd seen all of his movies, and it was a real thrill for me to get to work with him. And that was a lot of fun to work on, a lot. A really joyous experience as well. Yeah. Great fun.
Who's a better fighter, Robin Hood Men in Tights or the pirate?
You mean who would win in...
Yeah, who'd win in battle? Who'd win in battle, right? I think we all want to know that.
Oh, John. The old hypothetical fictional characters question.
Next question.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know.
All right, cool. And we have one more here as well. So were there any anecdotes that did not make it into the book that you wish there was room for as the editing process marches on?
No, I think I covered it all, really. Pretty much.
No
that was a
direct-
question I got from my editor when I was nearing the end, you know. Yeah, no, I covered it all. I was very fortunate. I didn't keep a diary or a journal while we were shooting. And so I was a little nervous after I hung up with the publishers at Touchstone, Simon Schuster, because I turned to my wife and I said, okay, they want me to write however number of pages and stuff. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I don't, you know, I have maybe 4 or 5 stories or something, but I can't remember every day of shooting. And I went and had lunch with Norman Lear, who produced the film and responsible for All in the Family and Jeffersons and Maude and all those wonderful shows. And Norman was fantastic. He said, "Don't worry, Cary, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you the call sheets from the movie." And the call sheets, for those of you who don't know, is a work order that you get as an actor or on the crew, and it tells you, what your call time is the next day and what scenes you have to shoot and all of that. And he said, when you get those, you're going to see them and you're going to remember where you were, and that'll help jog your memory. And a few days later, he sent me this beautiful bound file of all the call sheets. And he was right. I opened the first one, I looked at it, and I was right back there after 27 years. It was wonderful. So thank you to Norman, because without him, I certainly I wouldn't be in the movie, and I wouldn't be here sharing this book with you. So, yeah.
We also had a question from Todd Gage, going back to the epic sword fighting scene. Can you tell us more about the mechanics of the sword flying up in the air and catching it? Like, did that take a lot of practice to pull off, specifically in your training, or how did that go?
Okay, the sword in the air is actually Mandy. He catches the sword, I think. Isn't that right?
Well, there's one where you do the flip.
The flip is a guy we brought in. Okay, so here's what happened. No, that was me. Here's what happened. When Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond first showed the sword fight to Rob, they did it at what's known as half speed, right? And it timed out at like almost 3 minutes. And by the time Mandy and by the time we finished rehearsing and we got it up to, we'd learnt it really well, we showed it to Rob, and it was really fast. I mean, we were really moving. And so it timed out at about a minute. And after we were done, we were sort of panting and covered in sweat. We're like, walked up to Rob, we're like, "What do you think?" And he was scratching his beard again, and he goes, "That's it?" And we said, "What do you mean, that's it? I mean, we've been working on this for months, He goes, "Guys, I built this beautiful set for you. I mean, look at it, the Cliffs of Insanity. I mean, you're here, and you're going to be in here for a minute. We need longer than that, So we went back to the drawing board, and we added another 2 minutes to the fight. We had the whole thing on the tower, and the acrobat. We brought in this wonderful gymnast who came in and did that for us. And so we went back and looked at every single sword fight movie that we could lay our hands on. Scaramouche was one of the best ones. If you haven't seen it, it's wonderful. Stuart Granger, Mel Ferrer. Seahawk, Black Pirate, Robin Hood. Everything we could lay our hands on. And we just studied it. Studied every single sword fight scene we could. And we came back and added another 2 minutes. So that's what we did, yeah.
Wow. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming to Google, and a massive round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much.